Hey everyone! If you enjoyed this video, the full version is available on Patreon. I'll be uploading all my content there going forward.
Chapter 1 1520, Sea Calendar, New World, Moby Dick. A cool sea breeze carries a slightly salty smell, and the reflections of hundreds of newsbirds are mirrored on the azure sea. Dilt slowly stepped onto the pure white giant ship, his blonde hair disheveled by the sea breeze. So peaceful. No sooner had he finished speaking than a group of menacing-looking pirates drew their swords and pointed them at him. "Who are you? How did you get up here?" Dilt chuckled. "Didn't your father teach you to respect your elders?" The moment he took another step, a dark red lightning bolt whipped up a howling gale. As the usually boisterous pirates approached, one after another they collapsed on the deck. The only sound that reached my ears was the roar of the ocean waves. The black-bearded man, mingling in the crowd, was sweating profusely. Seeing that no one was standing beside him, he pretended to fall down with a thud. He was utterly shocked. It was that guy. He hasn't aged at all. He looks exactly the same as he did back in Wano country. In the distance, a white-bearded man with 4 tubes inserted into his body opened his somewhat dazed eyes. Dilt. 1st Division Captain Marco crossed his arms, looking displeased. "That's enough, the newcomers can't take it anymore." Dilt waved his hand, putting away his domineering aura, and looked at Ace next to Marco. "He's a newcomer, I never saw this kid before." Ace raised an eyebrow. "Kid? You're not that much older than me." Dieter smiled without saying a word, and simply kept moving forward. Ace was somewhat annoyed. "Who is this guy?" Marco, without turning his head, said, "Arbitration." Ace's eyes widened immediately, his face filled with disbelief. Finally, he shifted his gaze and it landed on the handsome young man with long blonde hair. Arbitrator Dilt. A great pirate who was once on par with Gold Roger, and he's so young. The bounty poster clearly shows him as an old man. Marco's expression remained unchanged. His angel fruit ability means the government's bounty on him is fake. Ace was somewhat skeptical. Get the government to fake it? Unheard of, is it really that powerful? The usually stern and unsmiling Diamond Jaws chuckled softly, a rare occurrence. You're still young. I hate to admit it, but this guy is even more outrageous than Dad in some ways. A look of recollection crossed Yozu's face. Do you know God Valley? Ace frowned, the place where Garp became a marine hero. Marco laughed and said, Dilt was the most outstanding figure in the God Valley incident. He slaughtered celestial dragons in front of countless navy and government henchmen, and finally escaped unscathed with more than 1,000 slaves in the chaos of battle. Ace froze, stunned. How is this possible? Only then did he remember something Garp had said to him years ago. You're asking about Dilt? Haha, that guy's an interesting opponent too. The only pirate whose name makes even the celestial dragons tremble. As a child, Dilt was already surrounded by many pirates and faced their captain directly. The white-bearded man put down his wine glass, which was taller than most people, and picked up a newspaper. The newspaper was exquisitely crafted in his hands. But as the newspaper drew closer, the large print, as big as a bowl, was clearly visible. As the 5th Emperor Dilt said, the omnipotent wish-granting machine that grants all desires. Whitebeard gazed at the distant sea and laughed heartily. Karalalala. Dilt, you rascal, you think the sea isn't chaotic enough already? Karalalala. Laughter resounded throughout the heavens and earth. A red lightning bolt struck straight at his face, and the sea trembled in response. Dieter didn't back down. He slowly stood up, his azure eyes meeting the Whitebeard's gaze. Is this how you welcome an old friend? As soon as he finished speaking, dark red lightning, accompanied by a majestic aura descending from the sky, enveloped the entire world. When they were young, Whitebeard and Dilt put away their domineering aura and smiled at each other. Dilter, your domineering aura is just as powerful as it was back in God Valley. Dieter sat down cross-legged again and accepted a large tray of wine from the crew member. After drinking the fine wine and hearing the white-bearded man's words, Dilt sighed deeply. God's Valley? Nobody's mentioned this place in ages, I'd almost forgotten about it. The white-bearded man's eyes seemed to still reflect the angelic wings that once blotted out the sky. Those who have seen it with their own eyes will never be forgotten in this lifetime. Dieter laughed. After all, I've done too many things, and I'm not one to dwell on the past. He took another sip of wine, his eyes slightly vacant. I vaguely remember when I first traveled through time. There is no bloodline, no cheat codes, and not even the Great Pirate Era. All that exists is a world government that controls everything. There are also hometowns that were plundered by both pirates and the government because they were too poor to pay the heavenly gold. The tragedy of more than 1 in 100 people being killed has been played out countless times before our eyes. Fortunately, this body possesses unparalleled talent. Even as a young man, Dilt was able to lift a warship, and he was adept at combat. As a time traveler with this ability, there is no reason not to head towards the sea. Come on, I want to be the freest person in the world. Thus began a classic story, setting sail, recruiting, and embarking on an adventure. Upgraded all the way, enjoying boundless glory. With his talent, he became a world-renowned pirate in the blink of an eye. What propelled him to the pinnacle was that bug-level angel fruit. After that, they experienced various events such as God Valley. Those seemingly insignificant things in our daily lives first become major news that shocks the world. Pirates rise and fall, becoming legends passed down from generation to generation. Years later, it was recorded in history and became a story that even 3-year-olds knew by heart. The name of arbitration resounded throughout the world, just like Roger Whitebeard. Looking back now, did you want to be the freest person? I've worn this legendary crown for over 40 years, or maybe 30. I can't remember anymore. Now that things have come to this, I just feel a bit bored. I've tasted every breeze of the Grand Line, the sea holds no secrets. Perhaps he should have thought of this when he arrived in Laughtale and saw the ridiculous truth of the world. His strength had already reached its peak, even a naval admiral's punch wouldn't be enough to tickle him. Let's not even mention that good-for-nothing who doesn't dare to show his face, he's not even as good as his 5 lackeys. Rox, I really miss your sword from back then, at least it made me take it seriously. Roger, as your rival, I really have a few words to say to you. You ignited a new era with your life, attracting a bunch of dream-chasing fools. Their passionate declarations, their so-called new era in my eyes, it's nothing but child's play. They argued so fiercely that I only found it noisy. Perhaps it's true, as that old guy Raleigh said, that it's time for us remnants of the old era to step down. But this fruit makes time itself the most boring trick. So this is what absolute and eternal freedom is like. It has become a cage. Ha 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 ha. He didn't laugh back then in Lavrov. Now, like Roger, he finds it ridiculous. Until one day, Dieter was drinking alone in silence. A voice suddenly rang out. Congratulations, host, on your transmigration to the Type-Moon universe. Please complete the main quest Oversee a Holy Grail War. As a newbie who has just transmigrated, this mission is quite dangerous. The host can summon an adjudicator to assist. Dieter was very unremarkable. You're half a century late, you know that? And are you blind? What kind of world is this? As he spoke, Dilt looked at the 2nd Division captain, Smid. That guy's arms were thicker than his chest, but his legs were thinner than bamboo poles. What kind of world is this? Haha. This contrast made him laugh out loud, something he hadn't done in a long time. The laughter grew louder and louder. You want me to oversee the Holy Grail War? Ha 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 ha. It's absurd, utterly absurd. But it seems that this absurdity is the only piece that can jump in this stagnant water. Interesting. Chapter 2. My thoughts returned to normal. Dieter looked at the white-bearded man whose body was covered in 4 tubes. You've really gotten old, Newgate. The white-bearded man laughed heartily, "Kara la 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 la. Even when I'm old, I can still fight you." Dieter downed the drink in his glass in one gulp, "Haha, I don't want to bully you. You're old after all, and your strength is failing you." As soon as he finished speaking, the crew members became somewhat displeased. "You rascal! Dad's the strongest." Marco remained silent, as the ship's doctor, he knew his captain's condition best. "You've come all this way, surely not just to mock me." The white-bearded man gulped down more wine, causing Marco to frown. Dieter laid the newspaper horizontally in front of him. "Let me be frank, the Holy Grail really exists." His words immediately caused an uproar. "I told you it was true." The 5 emperors themselves admitted it. "How is that possible? How could a wish-granting machine possibly exist? This guy, like Golden Lion, isn't mentally sound either." Whether it was true or not, the black-bearded man's ears inexplicably stood up even higher. The white-bearded man's expression remained unchanged. "So what if it exists?" Dieter asked tentatively, "Don't you want to know where it is?" After he said that, everyone on the ship was even more shocked. This 5th emperor actually knows the location of the all-powerful wish-granting machine. Captain Jinggu of the 11th Division scoffed, "If that's the case, why doesn't he go get it himself instead of coming to our old man? This guy's up to no good." He had just finished speaking when, in the blink of an eye, Dieter had already flashed in front of him, his eyes calm. "Do you think I need the Holy Grail? Or do you think I need a conspiracy?" Instantly, Jinggu Duo, whose bounty was over 100 million, felt his heart being gripped tightly. The pressure he felt from the short man, who was about 2 meters tall, was greater than that from the deep sea. He felt like he was about to die. If his answer didn't meet the other person's expectations, he would die instantly. So he used all his strength to shake his head. The next instant, Dilt was back opposite the white-bearded man. Jinggu Duo gasped for breath as if he had survived a calamity, then collapsed to the ground. The entire white mass gasped in shock. Dieter took a sip of his drink. "You should train your sons more, you've protected them too well." The white-bearded man's eyes narrowed with displeasure. "My child is none of your business." Dilt laughed. "All right, let's not talk about that. Let's get back to the main topic. Are you interested in the Holy Grail?" The white-bearded man's tone remained flat. "I don't have any wishes that I want to fulfill, everything I want is already on this ship." Dieter stood up. "Since you have no interest in the Holy Grail, I'll take my leave." Seeing that he was really going to leave, the white-bearded man did not stop him at all. On the contrary, many crew members were so anxious that they were scratching their heads in frustration. Pirates are powerless against treasures, let alone the all-powerful wish-granting machine. The man with the black beard smiled innocently on the surface, but inwardly he was cursing. "Damn it, don't leave me hanging. Never mind, my goal isn't the Holy Grail that suddenly appeared out of nowhere anyway." Just as Dieter was about to disembark, a young voice stopped him. "Wait, Lord Dilt." Dilt turned around and saw Ace. Ace shouted, "I'm interested." The white-bearded man chuckled, "Ace, what is your wish?" Ace pulled his hat down a little. "Of course, it's to help Dad become the Pirate King. If the Holy Grail is that miraculous, maybe it can cure Dad's illness. Don't you think so, Marco?" Marco nodded. "If it really is omnipotent, then it's possible." Ace laughed heartily. "Let's give it a try." "Lord Dilt, where exactly is the Holy Grail?" Dieter smiled without saying a word. Ace suddenly gritted his teeth and covered the back of his hand. "It's so hot." "What's wrong?" The Whitebeard pirate's eyes sharpened instantly. "Dilth, was this your doing?" Dieter raised his hand to indicate that he would wait a moment. After a while, the pain subsided, and Ace looked over. 3 bright red marks appeared on the back of my hand. What is this? Dilt smiled and approached. You are proof that you have been chosen by the Holy Grail. Ace frowned. What do you mean? Dilt slowly rose to his feet. How about I tell you a story? Instantly, the entire white group fell silent. Legend has it that 1,000 years ago, when gods still existed in the world, the opening ceremony was struck by lightning, leaving the pirates dumbfounded and wondering if they had misheard. He's talking about 1,000 years ago? Before the world government was even established, right? Gods still exist in the world. Does this mean mythology is real? Don't forget, this guy is Dilt, the sea has no secrets from him. Marco remained calm. 3 powerful mage families joined forces to use a powerful spell. The Holy Grail was born from magic and can grant any wish. The Holy Grail will choose those with strong desires and grant them the ability to use command seals and summon heroic spirits. Those chosen are called masters, and the summoned heroic spirits are called servants. Each group of contestants will engage in a free-for-all battle, and the winning group will receive the all-powerful wish-granting machine. This is the Holy Grail War. The Holy Grail has now chosen this young man on your ship. As soon as he finished speaking, a huge uproar erupted in the crowd. It's a bit like the Elbaf Warrior Festival. Has Ace already joined the battle? Ace stared at the command seals, his expression complex. The black-bearded man, who had been feigning death, silently turned his hand over, his mind reeling with turmoil. He endured the burning sensation that went deep into his bones without uttering a sound. What? Did I get chosen too? Luckily I managed to hold back, no one noticed me. The white-bearded man remained silent, he was deep in thought. How can we know if this is true or false? Dieter met his gaze. You'll see when you try it. After all, don't you find this new era a bit boring? The white-bearded man raised the corner of his mouth slightly. What are the rules of this war? Dilt replied, eliminate all the other contestants, be the last one standing, and you're done. At this point, Whitebeard also became somewhat interested in the war surrounding the all-powerful wish-granting machine. As Dieter said, in this boring new era, was he supposed to die on the ship with tubes in his body? Ace was involved in it. I'm a white-bearded old man. How could I not take the Holy Grail and give it to my son? Karala la 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 la. My sons, do you want the Holy Grail? All the team leaders, officers, and their subordinates shouted. I want to. I'll snatch it and use it to treat my dad's illness. Whitebeard ripped off all the 4 tubes from his body and stood over 6 meters tall in front of Dilt. I don't need it. You guys keep it for yourselves. Karalalalala. Dilt laughed inwardly. These guys already treat the Holy Grail as their own treasure. How confident they are. That's fine, it saves me from stirring things up. After all, the more like this happens, the more entertaining it becomes. The white-bearded man laughed loudly. You'll join the war too. Dilt shook his head. Consider me an overseer. The Holy Grail means nothing to me. Just consider it me being a troublemaker. After saying that, he looked at Ace and straightened the famous sword Themis at his waist. You can summon heroic spirits at any time, who knows, they might be someone your father knows. At this point, Ace, whose initial excitement had worn off, finally spoke again. Heroic spirits? Are they the kind of historical figures I imagine? That's so cool. Dirt sprouted wings from his back and leaped into the air. The real fun is yet to come. After saying that, he disappeared into the distant horizon. Ace murmured softly, heroic spirits, would the Pirate King count? Roger. Chapter 3. Dilt flew at high speed over the sea and landed on an unnamed island. Upon landing, the golden light spots beside her coalesced into a blonde girl in silver-white armor. The iris flag she held tightly in her left hand moved like light and shadow in the wind. It was ruler Joan of Arc. This is the arbitrator that the system requested him to summon to take care of the newcomer. This confirmed to him that heroic spirits could indeed be summoned. And it really is from the Type-Moon universe. Pfft. This is both a mockery of the world's absurdity and a celebration of the feast that is about to begin. To be honest, Dilt wouldn't have bothered summoning the Arbiter for help. After all, I'm not a tool of this broken system. But upon closer examination, having an additional arbitrator seems to add a bit more interest to the game. After all, with the adjudicator present, the original battle between the 7 masters and servants seemed rather petty. It would be reasonable for me to double the number of participants, wouldn't it? After all, this blind system only talks about the Holy Grail War, so how can the 14 vs 14 Grand Holy Grail War not be counted? In the end, this system is just a pawn for his own amusement. It will also let it know who the uncrowned king is in this world. His thoughts were interrupted by Joan of Arc's question. Master, who are those 2 contestants? Dieter looked at the petite girl without any condescension. He gazed at the distant location of the newsbird, a smile on his face. One is a passionate young man burning with love for his family, the other is a terrifyingly ambitious schemer. Joan of Arc pouted and said, the title ambitious man is really unsettling. The world is chaotic because of the information we've been given, but I will definitely work with you to fulfill our responsibilities as regulators. Dieter laughed and said, that's really reassuring. This wasn't just talk, thanks to the enhanced memory from the fruit, he clearly remembered the strength of this saintly woman who saved the nation. In this world, probably no one can break through the defense of her noble phantasm. Even that magma brat at Navy headquarters is no exception. As the wings glided, a newsbird swooped down and landed on Dilt's arm. Dilt sat on the shore, enjoying the cool sea breeze and the warmth of the sun on his face. He gently stroked the newsbird's forehead, took a newspaper, and released it into the air. Take care on your journey. Joan of Arc sat obediently next to Dieter, her figure appearing much smaller in comparison. Master, you're actually a very gentle person. After all, you're an angel. Dieter smiled and turned his head away without saying a word. After a while, he said, let's go, we've already chosen the next master. Dieter handed the newspaper to Joan of Arc, pointing to a line of small print in the corner. The Straw Hat Pirates, the rookies from the East Blue. Let's go, let's prepare to go to the East China Sea. Dilt stood up, about to activate his ability. Wait, master. I sensed a very strong magical energy reaction. It must be that the contestant from earlier is about to summon a servant. Joan of Arc leaned on the flag and gazed into the distance. Dieter couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth. You're really impatient. Why don't you eat the flaming fruit? Ace's heroic spirit, Roger, could it be you? Ha 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 ha, how could I not join in this fun? Instantly, Dilt's pupils turned a golden color. The observation haki spread out along with the wings. The surging waves, the breath of life, the sky, the ocean, the land, the birds, the beasts, and the people, everything in the world is within our grasp. Turning our gaze to the Whitebeard pirates, the scene unfolds before our eyes, making us feel as if we are actually there. This is one of the powers of the Angel Fruit World Surveillance. It's been so long since I used this ability, how many years? After all, seeing too much of the same thing just becomes boring. But things are different now. Let's turn back time. After Dilt left, Ace placed his right hand, which bore the command seals, on the barrel. The crowd completely blocked the surrounding area, with the squad leaders squeezed to the front. Even the white-bearded man, who pretended not to care, secretly glanced over here a few times during the breaks from drinking. Pirates have no resistance to the idea of summoning heroic spirits. Ace and the other squad leaders stared at each other blankly. Diamond Jaws stomped his foot, and the deck roared. Summon Ace quickly. This sparked a commotion among the crowd. Yes, let us see it. Summon! 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 Ace pushed away his family members who were about to touch his face. But I have no idea how to summon it. Vista, the foil-wielding swordsman, rubbed his mustache. Didn't Dilt say the command spells would tell you? Why don't you ask? Ace glanced at Vista speechlessly and turned his hands behind his back. You go ask them. After he finished speaking, the room erupted in laughter. It's worth noting that the man with the black beard, whose right hand was already bandaged, kept laughing throughout the crowd. Chef Sachi brought over a plate of roasted meat. Perhaps Vista is right, you should ask the command seals, but in a different way. Ace took a bite of the grilled meat, like, using haki. The black-bearded man in the crowd immediately brightened up. Just as everyone was about to continue their discussion, the white-bearded man drinking in the back spoke up softly. Wish. Ace, touch it with your wish mixed with your heart. Ace seemed to be deep in thought after hearing this. Blackbeard sneered inwardly, the old man's talk is so mysterious, but I might as well give it a try when I get back to my cabin tonight. Let Ace test it out for me. Ace sat down cross-legged and gently stroked the command seal on his right hand. I want to help my dad become the Pirate King. No, came the ethereal voice. Ace looked up and around, but there was no one around, not even the sea. Who's talking? Dad, where are you? Suddenly the scene changed, and he was pushed by the crowd into a square. Want my treasure? You can have it all. Go find it. Ace stared wide-eyed at the platform above. Roger. All around was plunged into darkness once more, and the ethereal voice echoed again, the blood of a demon, questioning the meaning of its birth. Ace roared, who are you? My birth has meaning. My father accepted me, and I'll help him become the Pirate King. The voice ceased in the darkness, only the command seal on his right hand emitted light. Since you're feeling lost, go and find out the meaning of being human. Go and summon, pursue it in this war. Having said that, Ace suddenly opened his eyes. Only a moment had passed on the Moby Dick. He stood up, surrounded by flames. The command seals shone with an unprecedented red light. This aura was earth-shattering, surging outwards across the world along with the ripples of flame. Red-haired Kaido Linlin slowly opened her eyes. Kizaru, Aokiji, and Akainu were all stunned. Dilt's abilities cover this area perfectly. Interesting, a big show right after we arrived. Whitebeard didn't speak, but simply put down his glass and stared intently at Ace. Guided by the command spell, the flames drew a complex magic circle on the deck. Ace's eyes were resolute as he muttered to himself. I declare that you are my servant, and my destiny is to give you the sword. If you follow the destiny of the Holy Grail, if you follow this will and this path, then respond. I hereby swear that I am the one who accomplishes all good deeds in the world, and I am the one who spreads all evil in the world. Descend upon the wheel of restraint, guardian of the scales, the 7 days that have bound you with your 3 great incantations. As soon as he finished speaking, a blinding light shot into the sky, making it impossible for people to open their eyes. Everyone instinctively raised their hands to shield themselves, and gasps of surprise filled the deck. As the blue light dissipated, the white-haired man, clad in golden armor and wielding a golden spear, shimmered in the sunlight within the blackened magic circle. He slowly opened his eyes. Servant, Lancer. My true name is Karna. Nice to meet you. Chapter 4. Dilt saw the golden-armored spearman with his own eyes, and he could no longer contain his laughter. Ha 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 ha. Although he's not Roger, this one is just as good. Karna, this is someone who truly surpasses the level of the pirate world. In fact, he already wanted to have a great battle with this world-class powerhouse. But thinking about it carefully, that would be too boring. Hey lava brat, wanna compare your temperature to the Sunday? Blackbeard, will you hide your ambitions from this all-knowing hero? Ha ha ha, this is interesting. This Holy Grail War is truly fascinating. Let it continue to spiral out of control. In reality, all that remained on the Moby Dick was its brilliance, its unparalleled brilliance. That golden armor seemed to be formed from sunlight, radiating warmth and majesty at all times. It was as if wherever he was, no darkness could hide. Even the usually composed Whitebeard, who had seen countless grand occasions, couldn't help but admire him in his heart. This aura, this presence, I've only ever felt it from that guy Dilt. If he was like that, one can only imagine how his sons were. These guys stared wide-eyed, their jaws practically dropping to the floor. Not to mention their eyes, even the drool they were drooling was reflecting a dazzling light. The black-bearded man's eyes seemed ordinary. In truth, he was laughing wildly inside, his desire as naked as his ambition. Ha ha ha, this is what a heroic spirit is, such a powerful and beautiful being, I can summon one too. After a long while, these guys finally regained their composure and managed to squeeze out a sentence using all the knowledge they had acquired. So handsome! Amidst their exclamations of praise, Karna had already received all the information about this world. Another world filled with pirates, hey! I see. He calmly looked around, and finally met Ace's gaze. So, are you my master? Ace was still reeling from the overwhelming amount of information, muttering to himself. Son of Surya, the sun god, the hero of charity. Yozua patted him on the back. Ace, someone's asking you a question. Ace staggered from the slap, nodded blankly, and it took him a long time to react. Hey, son of the sun god. You're a god. Karna did not react after saying this. The onlookers then slammed their jaws, which they had just put back onto the ground again. Hey? A god? That must be incredibly powerful. Wasn't it supposed to be heroic spirits? Yeah, I thought it was some historical figure, but it's a god. Marco frowned, the son of the sun god, could it be the son of Nika? The man with the black beard feigned shock, a god? Ha ha ha. Karna found the crowd a bit noisy, never expecting his master to summon him in front of so many people. Is this still a secret Holy Grail War? Karna remained unfazed. I am not a god, but merely a spearman. Based on the scent of the command seals, you are the master. The contract is established. I will use my body as a weapon to win this battle for you. As soon as he finished speaking, Ace felt the connection between the command seals and Karna. That's right, this is my own heroic spirit, but unfortunately it's not that man. Despite some regret, Ace's smile remained bright. He stepped forward and extended his right hand. Oh! My name is Ace, nice to meet you, Karna. Karna's body trembled slightly, as if he had not expected his master's actions. Don't you want me to kneel? This statement utterly astonished Ace. What? Kneeling? How is that possible? Upon hearing their conversation, the entire pirate crew burst into laughter. Unlike what Karna usually heard, this laughter contained no mockery, only joy. Marco smiled, met the white-bearded man's gaze, and nodded. He walked up to Karna. It seems that the god is not used to our pirate crew's style. Jaws also approached, and the 4-meter-tall hulking man whispered. There is no need to kneel on a ship, because there are no rulers and subjects here. Ace added, it's just family and friends here. Finally, all the members surrounded Karna. Since you are Ace's servant, you are now our ally. Karna smiled slightly after a brief moment of surprise. The message said it was a magnificent world. Absolutely true. What are we waiting for if we don't have a banquet? Ha 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 ha. Amidst laughter and cheers, the pirates dragged their rather unenthusiastic new companion into a wild party. The white-bearded man smiled calmly. Carrera, Ace, this son of the sun god is quite similar to you in some ways. Upon seeing this, Dieter withdrew from World Watch. Ace summoned Lancer Karna. Jeanne scratched her head in confusion. How did you know that servant's true name? Seeing through a true name is an ability exclusive to the judges. Dilt chuckled. Humph, I told you, there's nothing in this world I don't know. Joan of Arc hummed in agreement, then tell me, when will that ambitious man summon us? Dieter snapped his fingers, almost there. He won't be able to stay on this ship for much longer. Joan of Arc, unusually, shook her head, really? You said this guy was very good at hiding his true nature, weren't you? Dieter just chuckled and said nothing more. Jeanne dark pouted. Honestly, her master is always like this. Is he really an angel who only gives revelations and never explains anything in detail? May the Lord protect those innocent souls who may be consumed by ambition. Dieter, of course, had no idea what the Saintess was thinking. He was just silently calculating how many days it would take for the ship and the white group to meet. The ship carrying the dark fruit that I just observed through my abilities. Will your ambitions succeed so easily this time? That's a hero who can kill with his eyes, no darkness can hide him. Dilt stopped thinking, and 6 pairs of wings rose out of thin air. Let's go, let's hurry to the East China Sea. Joan of Arc, now in her spiritual form, asked him in his ear, why are you in such a hurry all of a sudden? With a flap of its wings, Dilt soared through the sky in an instant. The first heroic spirit has already appeared, let's not keep him waiting too long. The aura of heroic spirits is quite unique. Every kid in this world with a bit of power must have sensed it. Perhaps many people have already guessed that it's related to the Holy Grail I mentioned. Haha, Navy, pirates, Revolutionary Army, whoever it may be. If you want it, hurry up and come find me. I never hide my tracks, the wings that streak across the sky are proof of that. Come on, let's make this game even more fun. The Holy Land of Mary Gosa, Pangaea. In the garden, I'm stood there, stunned, as his favorite flowers fell to the ground. Today he sensed 2 auras of usurpation. One is the angel who has endured for many years, and the other is... No, it's the sun with different rays of light. He wanted to observe this outsider closely, but Karna, who was at the banquet, looked up at the sky. That all-seeing gaze was terrifying, just like that guy from 100 years ago. In an instant, the flowers in his hand scattered all over the ground. He still hasn't recovered. Dilt, what have you done now? The den mushy, a type of telephone mushy, rang in the conference room of the 5 elders, the highest authority in the world. Brub. Lord what are your orders? The voice was ethereal and devoid of emotion, find traces of the Dilt pirates, and I need all the information about the Holy Grail. Mobilize all resources, at any cost. Chapter 5. Reporting to the Marshal, according to our informants, Arbiter went to the Whitebeard pirates alone 3 days ago. Sengoku took a deep breath. 3 days ago, when that aura was unleashed. So it really is related to you. Dilt. At this moment, he recalled the 5 elders' instructions and involuntarily felt a headache coming on. Sure enough, anything involving Dilt is bound to be a major event. Where is his pirate crew? The Marines reported truthfully, we are still at headquarters on Beehive Island, and have not taken any action. Jean Guo waved his hand, I understand, you may leave. As the footsteps faded into the distance, Jean Guo rubbed his forehead. Numerous witnesses said that Dilt flew overhead, and the guy made no attempt to hide himself. But why go to the weakest sea? What is his intention, that makes the 5 elders take it so seriously? Could it be that, as he said, the Holy Grail truly exists, a wish-granting machine that can grant any wish? Are you trying to be like Roger, stirring up the ocean and turning it upside down? After muttering something to himself, he picked up the den mushy. Garp, you've arrived in the East Blue by now, haven't you? On the dog-headed warship, Garp was munching on a senbei, rice cracker. What's wrong, Sengoku? I'm on vacation right now. The tone of the Warring States period remained serious, with no hint of frivolity. Dilther crossed the doldrums and the Red Earth continent to reach the East Sea. Garp continued chewing, is that guy also on vacation in the East Blue? Sengoku slammed his fist on the table. Seriously, Garp. This is a major event. You must have sensed it too, the aura from 3 days ago. It's related to Dilt. Considering that he has been spreading the news about the Holy Grail, we have reason to suspect that the Holy Grail really exists. Karp sat up from the recliner and stretched. You mean, this guy knows the location of the Holy Grail, but instead of keeping it for himself, he wants to make the information public. Sengoku roared, isn't this just like him? Keep a close eye on him. I'll send Borsellino over, just in case. After the call ended, Zhangguo sighed. With Garp and Kizaru on the team, that should be enough to handle most situations. Sengoku picked up the communicator again. Has any news leaked out about the Whitebeard pirates? Reporting to the Marshal, I heard they've been holding banquets on the ship for 3 days straight, and we haven't dared to get close, so we haven't received any news. Sengoku nodded, keep an eye on it. Since that's the case, we can only wait. Dieter, what's your next move? Will you play an open move or a hidden one? What he didn't know was that Dilt was also waiting for a hidden move to unfold. Moby Dick, Deck. Karna, have another drink. Little Sun couldn't resist and drank another cup. Although heroic spirits don't get drunk or tired, they still feel somewhat weary. He seriously underestimated how much these pirates loved banquets. Over the course of 3 days, he drank an unknown number of glasses of wine. At the same time, he became friends with all the pirates. Literally, they insisted on testing the strength of the so-called deity. Initially, many people were unconvinced and were confident that they could defeat the gods. The final result was obvious. Apart from Marco the Whitebeard who didn't make a move, everyone else couldn't last 3 rounds against him. They could clearly sense Karna's power and were impressed by it. This made Ace burst into laughter. Looks like I've summoned an extraordinary heroic spirit. The Holy Grail is practically mine. Little Sun is actually quite speechless. So Master, you did know you were going to participate in the war? Was it necessary to prepare for a 3-day banquet? He spoke earnestly to Ace. Master, you must not underestimate the enemy. The Holy Grail War is a brutal war. What surprises me is that you know nothing about the rules, not even whether it's a regular Holy Grail War or a greater Holy Grail War. Therefore, we need to be extremely cautious. So I'll say it again, don't call me by my real name, call me Lancer. Ace mumbled as he stuffed food into his mouth. Okay, Little Sunday. Little Sun was the nickname the crew gave him. After all, this guy is the son of the sun god. Upon hearing his master's reply, Karna covered his forehead, deeply feeling the weight of his responsibility. Suddenly, a dark and chilling aura rushed towards him, and Karna's eyes sharpened instantly. 3 nights ago, he sensed a momentary release of magic power, along with the same aura. It seems to be on this ship. Bottom of the ship's cabin. The chaotic footsteps and cheers on the deck never ceased, while here there was only gloom. The man with the black beard sat looking at the ground in front of him, where a magic circle was drawn with an unknown black powder. This was drawn based on the magic circle that Ace used to summon, but it looks distorted. He was talking to himself at that moment, and his command seals were shining with a bright red color. You mean, Karna has already detected the anomaly? How is that possible? Didn't you say you possessed the highest level of aura concealment? They didn't even notice the old man with the white beard. You say he can see through things. No wonder I felt like he could read my mind. Apart from his gruff voice, there was no other sound in the cabin. After a while. So what should we do now? I don't want to be exposed. Although I summoned you, you are still the best choice on this ship. Then a grayish-white flame suddenly ignited and spelled out a line of words on the floor. Wait, and hold on to hope. Teach. Who are you talking to? Hurry up and go to the banquet. Karna hasn't even officially met you yet. Upon hearing this, the black-bearded man swept the flames away, also dispelling his ferocious expression. With a honest and simple face, Teach turned around and chuckled, "Hey, Satchel, what brings you down here?" Sachi approached with a smile, "I noticed no one is eating the apple pie at the banquet. It seems you haven't been participating in the banquet at all." Upon seeing the summoning circle, Sachi gasped slightly in surprise. "Wow, isn't that Ace's summoning circle?" Teach stood up with a sheepish grin, "Yes, I put one in my room, it's so cool." Sachi stopped him, "Come on, let's go up to the banquet." Teach shook his head, "Someone as weak as me, with no dreams, is better off not going up there and embarrassing myself." Sachi, utterly astonished, exclaimed, "What are you saying? Your family? Karna is too. Come on, there's your favorite apple pie up there." Teach stood there dumbfounded as Satchel turned and pulled him away. All that remained was a Blackbeard with eyes like those of tigers, leopards, and wolves, and a menacing grin. Amidst the dusty smell of the ship's cabin, eerie black lightning swirled behind the black-bearded man. A phantom figure dressed in a long robe and wearing a top hat appeared in the lightning. He grinned maliciously, his eyes burning with the fire of revenge. A massive shadow loomed over Sachi ahead, and Sachi abruptly turned around. It turned out that Teach had stood behind him, blocking the light. He realized for the first time how tall Teach was. Teach lowered his head, his honest expression seemingly unchanged. "What's wrong? Captain Sachi, do you also feel something's amiss?" Sachi scratched his head, "Maybe it's just my imagination. Let's go." The mysterious phantom had long since vanished into the shadows. Only one voice remained, echoing in the black-bearded man's ears. "Wait, and hold on to hope." At sea, the pirate ship carrying the dark fruit had already entered Whitebeard's territory. Observing the ship's movements, Dieter joked, "What a subtle summons. I almost didn't even notice it. Thank goodness Joan of Arc reminded me. I didn't expect it to be a servant outside the 7 classes. Hehehe, this is getting more and more interesting." Chapter 6. East China Sea, Rog Town. 2 blonde figures, one tall and one short, stood out on the street. "Master, I still think we should deal with that abnormal servant." Joan of Arc could not hide the worry in her eyes. Dilt looked relaxed, marveling at the rapid development of the East China Sea, a place he hadn't visited in many years. "Why? He didn't do anything out of line." Joan of Arc tugged at Dietrich's white sleeve, which was embroidered with gold patterns. "Avengers are an evil class, and they may harm many innocent people, or even corrupt the Holy Grail." Dieter smiled and said, "If any contestant tries to harm the innocent, I will definitely intervene. As for contaminating the Holy Grail, that's impossible. So let's leave this special heroic spirit here." Joan of Arc hesitated for a moment, then nodded gently. "I believe in you, Master." "A corrupted Holy Grail? Of course not. Because the Holy Grail was in his possession, the system gave him one at the start. Is this thing very rare?" For Dilt, this was its sole purpose, the source of magic for contestants to summon heroic spirits. The Holy Grail also converts their physical strength into magical energy to supply the servants. It has no other use. This was originally a finished Holy Grail, and it would not be contaminated by black mud during the manifestation process. Therefore, there's no need to fear that the Avengers will destroy this game. Since that's the case, let them develop freely. The two walked side by side and soon arrived at Roger's execution platform. Dieter looked up at the towering execution platform that seemed to reach into the clouds. "This is the execution site of that pirate king, it's truly spectacular." Dieter moved swiftly, and no one except Joan of Arc noticed what he did. In an instant, Dieter bypassed the guards and gently pried a small wooden wedge off the execution platform. "Let's go, I've got everything I needed." "Yes, Master." They walked in silence until they reached the dock. A large number of naval troops were stationed here, and in the distance, a continuous stream of warships could be seen approaching. There are at least 100 ships at a glance. Dieter just found it funny. The person in the wanted poster looks different from the real me, so it's fine if you don't recognize me. Why are you sending so many warships to block the dock? Don't you know I can fly? As Dilt shook his head and clicked his tongue, he heard people around him talking. What's going on? Does the East China Sea need so many naval forces? Don't you know? The great pirate Dilt has arrived in the East Blue. Dilth. That vicious scoundrel who's on par with the Pirate King. Yes, unless it's something important, it's best not to go to the East China Sea. That's true, who knows what that demon will do in the East China Sea. Upon hearing this, Dilt's playful side was piqued, and he smiled. Maybe they just came to browse. An old man glanced at him and said, "Young man, do you know who Dilt is?" Dieter shook his head, "I think he's just average." The old man's eyes widened, "Young man, don't be so arrogant. Let me tell you, he's the strongest pirate in the world right now. Don't be fooled by all these warships now, if he were to come, he wouldn't even glance at them. One strike is all it takes. They'll all be reduced to ashes." Joan of Arc smiled slightly, and Dieter nodded seriously. Probably won't even take one hit." The old man had a look on his face that said, "Now you understand, right?" Dilt activated his ability, and pure white wings, carrying a majestic golden light, spread out, pressing down on everyone's heartstrings. "But I'll still take a look at all these warships, I'm not blind." Boom! With a sonic boom, Dilt, accompanied by the spirit form of Joan of Arc, soared into the sky. The shockwave alone overturned all the warships on the dock. Strangely, those who were closest to the incident were completely unharmed. The old man's mouth was wide open. Their bulging eyes followed the tiny white light at the edge of the sky. The sailors who fell into the sea had no idea what had happened. A lieutenant slowly pulled out a den mushi. "Report, Dilt has flown eastward from the Rogtown docks." "Jump!" Smoker slammed the bounty poster onto the table. "The angel fruit is one of a kind in the world, and it's him. But damn it, he doesn't look like the person on the bounty poster. If I had known it was him earlier, I would definitely have arrested him." Tashiji pushed up her glasses, "It's no use regretting it now. We should report his movements to our superiors as soon as possible." Smoker crushed his cigar in his teeth, "Damn it, I hope I never run into you again." Above the sky, Dilt activated world surveillance. The observation haki roamed the entire East Blue and quickly found the trail of the Going Merry. "A restaurant on the sea? It's not far." He subconsciously ignored the dilapidated ship, even though it was moored right next to the sea restaurant. "Get ready to speed up." He gave a reminder to the spirit like Joan of Arc, then flew at full speed toward the seaside restaurant. Near the floating restaurant, a small boat lit by green candlelight slowly passed by. The man with eagle-like eyes silently glanced at the sky, the black sword behind him trembling. It seems the floating restaurant is destined to be bustling with activity today. At dusk, as a storm looms, the tranquility of the floating restaurant Baratai is shattered by a hungry ghost. Even the demon Akin, whom they had previously rescued, was accompanied by a tall pirate. The pirate, clad in heavily dented golden armor, was none other than the infamous Admiral Krieg. "Gentlemen, please, we just want a bite to eat. The captain is starving." The chefs fell silent. Just as everyone was hesitating, Sanji brought out a steaming bowl of fried rice and placed it in front of Krieg. Krieg looked grateful. "Thank you, thank you." He grabbed the food and wolfed it down, devouring it in a flash. The plate was quickly emptied. However, when the last bit of food disappeared, the gratitude on Krieg's face vanished, replaced by a surge of violence. "Pa!" A mouthful of phlegm landed on the ground. With a mighty sweep of his massive hand, crash! The plate and leftover food shattered against the wall, splattering filth everywhere. Pig swill! Creek roared, striding over the mess on the ground. His iron-like hand swiftly gripped Sanji's neck, lifting him up like a chick. Then, with a thud, they pushed him to the ground. Sanji! Luffy shouted and was about to step forward when Sanji stopped him. Creek's gaze swept across the room. Hand over all the meat and wine on board. Leave nothing behind. He grinned maliciously, or we'll dismantle your lousy boat right now and throw you all into the sea to feed the fish. Ajin looked troubled, but boss. Didn't you say we'd only eat? Creek shoved him away. Fool. Once our men have eaten their fill, we can seize this ship and return to the Grand Line. Looking at the fearful guests, he regained some of his confidence. Didn't you hear me? Go prepare some food. Otherwise I'll... Before he could finish speaking, they heard a couple talking casually outside the door. To be honest, I've always wanted to try the food here. Oh, are there things on the high seas that Master hasn't tried yet? When I was wandering around, this restaurant didn't even exist yet. Creek looked back and heard a man's voice gasp. Creek smirked. How about that? See if you're scared of me. Oh, Straw Hat Luffy, I'm so glad to finally meet you. Luffy tilted his head, looking at the blonde man in fancy clothes. Do I know you? Dieter walked right past Creek without even glancing at him. Creek's teeth were practically grinding to powder, he couldn't take it anymore. The golden knuckle duster slammed into Dilt's cheek with a whooshing sound. Go to hell. Hey! Blonde guy! Watch out! Chapter 7. Snap! When the iron fist struck Dilt, the first sound to be heard was the cracking of bones. Everyone in the restaurant was taken aback. They had already anticipated the scene of a watermelon shattered and scattered all over the ground. But upon closer inspection, it opened their eyes to a whole new world. Luffy's anxious expression turned into one of shock. The fist was pressed against the blonde man's face, but he didn't even tilt his head. Conversely, it's Creek. My hand is broken? How is that possible? He had never felt the pain so clearly before, which forced him to accept the reality. Sanji stared blankly at Dilt on the ground, his face showing no sign of anything happening. How is that possible? Creek is incredibly strong. Dilt called out to Luffy again, while also glancing at Sanji on the ground. What a unique way to welcome guests. Get up, kid, I want to order. As soon as he finished speaking, the entire room fell silent again. This man didn't take Creek seriously at all. Creek's face was contorted with bulging veins, and the pain and humiliation made his eyes red. The similar scene reminded him of the man with the black knife. How could that be? I won't accept it. Ignoring his broken arm, he threw another punch with even greater force. Bang! The punch generated a powerful gust of wind, causing all the chefs to raise their hands to shield themselves. However, reality is cruel. The blonde man pulled the woman behind him forward. Creek was left trembling, staring in disbelief at his disfigured right hand. Pft! Pft! The shattered brass knuckles pierced into flesh, and deep white bones spurted out along with bright red blood. Chief! Are you all right? Ajin stepped forward with a look of concern on his face. Creek shoved him away. Get out of my way. I'm the overlord of the East Sea, Creek. Turns out I'm so weak. The people around him thought the same thing, this guy was the overlord of the East China Sea. In front of this man, even the overlord of the East Sea was not worthy of being noticed. While everyone stood at attention in shock, Dieter sat down by the window. Joan of Arc glanced with a hint of pity at Creek, who was kneeling and wailing, before taking her seat with her master. Hey Straw Hat Boy, come here for a second. And you, curly-browed cook, get up and order. Luffy looked at Creek's miserable state. He sat down next to Dieter without expression or a word. Sanji struggled to his feet and slowly walked to the dining table. Dilt rested his head on his left hand, his eyes fixed on Luffy. You and Roger really look alike when they were young. Luffy's eyes lit up. Roger? Blonde guy, do you know the Pirate King? Dieter looked out the window. Of course, that guy is my defeated foe. Luffy exclaimed, bullshit. Hearing this, although no one dared to show it, they all admitted that they were amused. I know you're very strong, but you can't brag like that, can you? This man is no more than 30 years old. You probably weren't even born when Roger was sailing the seas. Crackling and popping. The sound of a plate shattering drew everyone's attention. The once great pirate Red Legs F stared wide-eyed at Dilt. Arbitration, Dilt. The moment the name was called out, the entire venue fell silent. Haha. What a joke, Dilt must be over 70 years old by now. My heart was in my throat, but the crowd burst into laughter. Haha, yeah, boss, how could this young man possibly be Dilt? Dieter turned to Zeph, you know me. Zeph picked up the broken plate from the ground. Many years ago in the Sabayati archipelago, I witnessed your fleet's battle with the navy from afar. The news said you were in the East China Sea. I didn't expect it to be true. As soon as he finished speaking, the guests stared at each other in disbelief. What a joke! I must not have woken up properly today. The villain from my childhood fairy tales actually appeared in front of me one day. What is this unrealistic, dreamlike feeling? Oh well, I'd better go to sleep first. Thump thump. One guest after another fainted from fright. Dilt was used to this and looked up at Luffy and Sanji beside him. Why aren't you scared? Sanji replied, since they're all guests here to eat, what's there to be afraid of? Actually, I should add in my heart, especially since there is such a beautiful lady here. What would this beautiful lady like to order? Joan of Arc felt quite uncomfortable seeing Sanji like this. She pushed the menu back to Dieter. Luffy looked at Dilt, of course I'm not afraid, because I'm going to be the Pirate King. Dieter smiled and took the menu, bring us all the specialties. Don't worry, there won't be any waste. Zeph shouted, the great pirate Dalt has arrived. Don't just stand there, get to work. The chef stood at attention and saluted, yes, sir. Let's get to work immediately. Damn it! Stop right there! Creek roared hysterically, his face now resembling that of a demon. Guns and cannons hidden within the armor were revealed, pointing directly at Dilt. Is my strength really that much worse than yours? You won't even glance at me. Ajin clung desperately to his leg, pleading, that's enough, chief. You definitely can't beat him, let's go. Creek kicked him away again. Dilth, I'll kill you right here today. Dilt looked at Luffy, if an attack comes at you, are you afraid? Luffy turned to look behind him, I'm not afraid. Dieter laughed heartily, not enough. Still not enough. If you truly want to be king, you can't even tolerate attacks like this. Seeing them talking to themselves, Creek became so anxious that his eyes bulged and his whole body turned red. Go to hell. Sensing the approaching danger, Luffy instinctively wanted to react. Before that, a beautiful figure flashed by. The sharp flagpole whistled in the wind, and in the blink of an eye, before the bullet was fired. Pfft! After the sound, Joan of Arc appeared behind Crick. She twirled the flag to shake off the blood and glanced back slightly. I'm sorry, but you've attacked my master repeatedly. Even if it doesn't cause any damage, I have to take action. Crick was horrified, what? Before he could finish speaking, his chest armor shattered, and blood spurted out. Creek was shot in the chest and fell to the ground instantly. Akin cried out in despair, Captain. Sanji's pupils dilated, so strong. Luffy stopped moving and it took him a while to realize that the danger had passed. But looking at Dieter in front of him, he remained calm and composed throughout. Now you understand, right? You're still a long way from being king. No sooner had the words left his mouth than a deafening roar erupted outside the seaside restaurant. People in the restaurant peered out the window and were hit on the head by splinters of wood. The source of the noise was none other than Creek's large ship. It was violently twisted open and torn apart by something. Jeanne's body froze on the spot as if a string had been cut. Yes, that guy is here. A frantic alarm bell rang in his mind. Even if they chase us all the way to the East China Sea, they still won't let us go. Dilt patted Luffy on the shoulder. Let's go, kid. Let's go out and join the fun. We'll eat later. Stepping out the door, the sunlight shone directly on my face. Feed Zoro. Luffy's out. Usopp's shrill voice was clearly audible. Zoro's gaze turned serious as he noticed the ornate sword at the waist of the man next to the captain. Is that the famous sword Themis? But I can't worry about anything else now, because that guy is here. As Zoro looked on expectantly, a small boat emerged from the smoke and ruins. The world's greatest swordsman, Hawkeye my hawk, is here. His hawk-like gaze pierced straight at Dilt, the black blade humming. Chapter 8. OM. The massive black sword knight on my hawk's back hummed uncontrollably. The blade trembled slightly, as if a sleeping beast had caught the scent of prey of equal caliber. Jorakal my hawk. Dilt met those sharp eagle eyes. A pleasant smile slowly curved his lips. Long time no see, you've become the world's greatest swordsman. Your sword seems quite excited. His voice wasn't loud, but everyone could hear every word clearly. Zoro's eyes widened. Talking to my hawk like that? Could he really be him? My hawk stepped onto the deck of the Barady with steady steps. Every step he took was on the edge of everyone's nerves. His voice was deep and magnetic, carrying a sense of indifference as if he looked down upon the world. Arbitrator Dilt, it's been many years since we last met. His gaze swept over Themis at Dilt's waist, finally settling back into Dilt's azure eyes. Is your sword old? Old. Dilt chuckled softly, the sound particularly clear on the Dead Sea, carrying a hint of lazy mockery. There's no need to mock me like that, I will fight with all my might. You probably also know that this is an incredibly boring sea. It's such a rare thing to find an opponent that makes even the blade leap with joy. You've experienced the loneliness of being at the top for a while, haven't you? Hawkeye remained silent, which was taken as tacit agreement. The conversation between the two was calm and uneventful, yet it made everyone present feel suffocated. Zoro's muscles were taut, and his teeth were clenched so tightly they were grinding together. Are these two going to fight? Anticipation and joy struck his heart like a heavy hammer. He stared intently at my hawk, and also at the blonde man who excited my hawk. An unprecedented sense of dread and longing surged through his blood. This is the peak he wants to challenge, this is the mountain he must cross. Interesting. Dilt's smile widened. He said something to Luffy. We can talk about our business later. How about we come see a show? He casually took a step forward, the movement light and unassuming. However, just as his toes touched the ground. Boom! Centered on him, the sea surface within a radius of 100 meters suddenly sank, forming a huge bowl-shaped depression. The violent, dark red arcs of electricity leaped and exploded around him as if they were alive. The purest and most extreme conqueror's haki, mixed with divine majesty, transformed into tangible wind pressure, instantly sweeping across the entire area. A battle between strong individuals doesn't need many words, it can begin in the blink of an eye. Thump! Thump! Jeanne Dark and Luffy were protected by an invisible aura and were unaffected. The others were different. Zoro and Sanji barely managed to stay upright and not kneel down. What kind of aura is this? Zoro and Sanji exclaimed in surprise, their eyes almost popping out of their sockets. This completely overturned their understanding of the strong, what terrifying power this was. The cook, Arkan, Usopp, Johnny, Joseph, and even Creek, who had just struggled to his feet. His eyes rolled back, foam came out of his mouth, and he fainted all at once, like wheat being harvested. Jeanne's face showed surprise. She knew that her master was a top-tier powerhouse in this world. But I didn't expect it to be this strong. It's almost on par with a grand servant. Luffy patted his straw hat down. This is the one who's going to challenge the Pirate King. Mihawk's eyes narrowed, and the Black Sword Knight was slowly drawn, unleashing a terrifying aura that was as solid as a tangible substance. That wasn't Conqueror's haki, but a pure and ultimate slash. The invisible sword energy sliced through the air, emitting a high-frequency hissing sound. He forcefully carved out a territory of his own amidst Dilt's overwhelming Conqueror's haki storm. The air between the two was violently distorted, the light dimmed, and the space itself seemed to groan. Wow! Not bad! A flash of admiration crossed Dilt's eyes. Looks like I'll be able to relieve some boredom today. Equally so. To be able to unleash night without even drawing your sword, you truly deserve to be called the strongest in the world. Mihawk's voice was firm. The strongest in the world? It's just an empty title. Dilt chuckled and reached for Themis at his waist. I won't use my devil fruit ability in this battle. Otherwise, you'll have absolutely no chance of winning, and that would be too boring. Hawkeye got into position and focused intently. I don't think there's anything arrogant about you saying that. Come on. With a slight twist of his wrist, Dilt unsheathed the blade, drawing a perfect arc and accompanied by a sharp whistling sound. A holy light seemed to appear in the air, which made Joan of Arc put her hands together in prayer. It's just for fun, don't take it too seriously, Mihawk. Mihawk's eyes gleamed, and he said nothing more. The Black Sword Knight vanished suddenly. Next moment, a pitch-black slash that seemed capable of cleaving through space appeared silently in front of Dilt. Quick! It surpasses the limits of visual capture. That was a strike that embodied the essence of the world's #1 swordsmanship. Dilt smiled, and without dodging or avoiding, he precisely met the attack with Themis in his hand. Clang! There was nothing earth-shattering as expected. There was only one crisp, clear sound, yet it seemed to resonate through the very soul, a metallic clang. The clash between the white blade and the black knife produced a dazzling flash of light. Then, something terrifying happened. Centered on the point where the two blades collided, the space instantly became like fragile glass, covered with a spider web. The violent shockwave spread out silently. Wherever it passed, it was sliced smoothly, like a hot knife cutting through butter. Below, a deep, dry crater, tens of meters in diameter, formed on the sea surface. It remained there for several seconds before being filled by the surging, backflowing seawater. Rumble! The deafening roar finally came, a sound that echoed through the air and crashing against the waves. Zoro gripped the hilt of his sword tightly, his knuckles turning white from the force. His body swayed violently in the aftershocks, and he almost lost his balance. His eyes were filled with extreme shock, fervor, and a hint of bewilderment. This is the battle at the pinnacle of the world. There are no fancy moves, just the most basic clash of swords. This alone caused the terrifying scene of space breaking apart and the sea sinking. This was completely beyond his imagination of strength. His prized three-sword style was like child's play in front of these two. Did you see that, Zoro? Luffy pressed down on his straw hat, but his eyes shone with an astonishing light. He shouted excitedly, "This is a true powerhouse! Super amazing!" Zoro yelled in disbelief, "Hey Luffy! What's that blonde guy's name?" Luffy chuckled, "It's Dilt. Arbitrator Dilt. He seems to be here to see me." Zoro felt a weight lifted from his heart. It really was that person, the arbitrator. Few people know that the name arbitration actually comes from the sword of arbitration. The center was filled with smoke, dust, and water vapor. Dieter held the knife in the same position, seemingly unperturbed. My hawk also stood there, sword in hand, the black blade night still dark and deep. But his eyes burned with intense excitement, the kind of excitement that comes from meeting a worthy opponent. Warm-up complete. Dilt raised an eyebrow, swinging his sword with his right hand to create a strong gust of wind. Looks like you're worth me taking a little more seriously. My hawk took a deep breath. He held the black blade horizontally in front of him, his aura rising once more, the sharp sword intent almost piercing the sky. I couldn't ask for more. Just as the two were about to start fighting again, Sanji shouted. Feed you too. If you keep fighting, this floating restaurant will sink. As soon as they finished speaking, the two of them slowly sheathed their swords. It seems like there won't be a winner today. It's all right. Dieter laughed and said, how about we grab a drink? Just as Hawkeye was about to reply, Zoro gripped his twin swords tightly. Jolika my hawk. This roar completely awakened the body that had just been trembling from the conqueror's haki. I challenge you. Chapter 9. I am Roronoa Zoro, the man destined to become the world's greatest swordsman. The Black Blade Knight continued to hum. Hawkeye's cold gaze locked onto Zoro. Challenge me. The voice was completely flat. You should have seen the difference by now. This isn't courage, it's foolishness. Dieter leaned against the bar, swirling his glass as he casually chimed in. My hawk, don't be too harsh on him. The fire in this kid's eyes is the same as when you blocked my ship with that little knife back then. Who knows, maybe he'll be the one to surpass you in the future. Zoro's lips curled into a smile, his joy barely contained. Unexpectedly, the arbitrator, Dieter, thought so highly of him. Upon hearing Dilt's words, a glint flashed in Hawkeye's eyes. With a gentle push of the thumb against the hilt, the sword chimes. OM. A dark green line tore through the air. Zoro's pupils contracted sharply, but his body didn't have time to react. Scoff. Just one strike. Blood gushed forth. A deep, bone-revealing wound tore open the left chest. Zoro collapsed against the twisted ship's side, his three swords flying from his hands. He was overwhelmed by excruciating pain. Zoro! Luffy and Sanji exclaimed. Luffy angrily tried to rush towards Mihawk, but was pulled back by Dilt. Zoro shouted, Don't interfere, Luffy. This is my battle. The field of vision was blood red, the eagle's eyes were like an insurmountable cliff. Sure enough, the difference is shockingly large. Zoro trembled, using all his remaining strength to prop himself up against the cold ship's side, his bloodshot eyes fixed on Mihawk. Cough, the scars on my back are a disgrace. He roared as he straightened his blood-stained spine. This chest wound. I'll remember it. The world's greatest swordsman. Wait for me. One day, I will stand before you and make you take back what you said today. Blood stained the deck, but the indomitable flames burned fiercely. Eagle Eyes watched silently. The sea breeze continued to blow. A few seconds later, he let out a soft laugh. He slowly pushed Night back behind him, the sound of it returning to its sheath deep and clear. I'll remember you, Roronoa Zoro. Don't die. I'll be waiting for you at the summit. I've seen another good show. Dilt drank the wine in his glass in one gulp and slowly walked to Luffy's side. Don't worry, he won't die. Luffy shook his head, I'm not worried about him. Dieter let out a questioning sound with great interest. Oh. Luffy pressed his straw hat to his chest, I'm happy for him. I'm glad to have met a true strong person, and I now have a clear goal. Hey. We're one step closer to our dream. The sound echoed across the sea, creating ripples on the surface. Hawkeye noticed the straw hat and its young owner, and Dilt burst into laughter. Perhaps there is still some fun in this so-called new era. I'm having a good time today. Come on, my hawk, let's have a few drinks after all this time. Hawkeye slowly approached, Anyway, I have nothing better to do. Dilt patted Luffy on the shoulder. Come on, kid, let's go eat. Beside the dilapidated table, 3 glasses of rum were filled. Dieter invited the two to sit down and began today's topic. You've all heard of the Holy Grail, right? But do you know about the Holy Grail War? Time flew by, the sun set, and only the restaurant on the sea remained brightly lit. Joan of Arc stood quietly half a step behind Dieter, her silver armor shimmering in the soft moonlight. Her azure eyes swept calmly over Hawkeye and Luffy, with a sense of scrutiny. Dieter swirled his wine glass and looked at Hawkeye. Well, do you understand now? Eagle Eyes held the wine, the deep red liquid reflecting in his sharp eyes. His gaze lingered on Joan of Arc for a moment. Her attire and aura were clearly those of an extraordinary person. Hawkeye has seen countless powerful individuals, but he has never witnessed such an aura before. Moreover, this aura was very similar to a fluctuation he had sensed 3 days ago. Having exhausted his thoughts, Hawkeye replied. Summoning heroic spirits to plunder the omnipotent wish-granting machine. If anyone else said that, I would consider them a madman. His voice was deep. Dilt turned to Luffy, who was launching a fierce attack on a large piece of roasted meat. Kid, how's it going with the Holy Grail War? Luffy's mouth was stuffed full of oil, and his eyes under his straw hat shone brightly. He swallowed hard. Super powerful. Especially the summoning of heroic spirits and stuff. But he clenched his greasy fist, his knuckles tense. I will forge my own path to becoming the Pirate King with my own fists. I will defeat you all myself. I don't need any strange cups to help me. Haha. Roger would laugh himself to death if he heard that. Even he couldn't beat me. Dilt laughed loudly, then leaned forward slightly, his azure eyes sweeping over Hawkeye and Luffy. It carries an unquestionable implication. My Hawk, I know you still don't believe me. He pointed to Joan of Arc behind him. This is the ruler, Jeanne d'Arc. A heroic spirit summoned by the Holy Grail to ensure the operation of the rules of war. She herself is proof of the Holy Grail's existence. Joan of Arc nodded slightly, her demeanor dignified. Nice to meet you all. I am here to oversee this battle on the orders of my master, Dilt. The holiness and majesty that emanated from her were not feigned. Hawkeye's gaze sharpened, and Luffy stared wide-eyed in curiosity. Ultimately, it's not that complicated. Dieter continued to tap the tabletop lightly with his fingers. 14 groups of people summon heroic spirits from history or legend as servants and fight each other. The last group to survive will receive the all-powerful wish-granting machine, the Holy Grail. He looked at Hawkeye and threw out the bait. Jorakal, you pursued the ultimate swordsmanship. You defeated every strongman of the world. But what exactly was the brilliance of those legendary heroes who stood at the pinnacle of swordsmanship? Don't you want to witness it with your own eyes and measure it with your own hands? Hawkeye's hand, holding the wine glass, remained motionless. But deep within those calm, eagle-like eyes, a sharp flame suddenly ignited. Dilt clicked his tongue. It seemed the sword fanatic had encountered an irresistible feast. He remained silent and downed the strong liquor in his glass in one gulp. That silent stance was more resolute than any vow to join the war. Dilt's smile deepened as he turned to Luffy. The tone became like enticing a child to take apart a toy. As for you, Straw Hat Boy, there's no point in taking a shortcut to becoming king with the Holy Grail. But think about it. He deliberately dragged out the tone. A grand melee featuring the strongest warriors of all time. You'll encounter all sorts of incredibly powerful and bizarre opponents. Experience countless more exciting adventures. Hawkeye's level of power might just be an entry ticket. The real power might be on par with countless pirate kings. Don't you want to witness it? Luffy's eyes instantly turned into shining stars. Hey! Really? I'll get to see a ton of super powerful servants. He suddenly stood up. He looks so cool. This is awesome. I want to participate. I want to participate. Sanji, who was serving the food, looked on with disdain. This idiot, he fell for their trick so easily. But Luffy's face was filled with pure excitement at discovering a new adventure, without any gloom. Jeanne looked at Luffy's pure smile, and the corners of her mouth curved almost imperceptibly before she returned to her calm, protective posture. Hawkeye put down his empty glass, his gaze sharp as a knife. When do we begin? Dieter, soon, this storm will sweep across the sea. The next instant, Hawkeye felt a burning pain on the back of his hand. He looked down and saw that 3 bright red command seals had appeared. Luffy swung his arm and jumped up. Ouch! It's so hot! He grinned as he looked at the back of his right hand also bearing 3 command seals. Hey! What's that? That's a cool tattoo. Dieter raised his glass. Welcome, to this feast. Chapter 10. The piercing noise was like steel needles piercing Zoro's drowsy consciousness. Get up, you bastards! This is a restaurant, not a charity hospital. Wake up! You haven't paid for your meal yet. Hey! Stop playing dead! Get up and I'm going to splash cold water on you! The chef's angry shouts and the sounds of things clashing echoed throughout the room. Zoro struggled to open his leaden eyelids, and the wound on his chest immediately shot through him in pain. He gasped. Who bandaged this up? It's so ineffective. I rubbed my eyes. What came into view was a scene of utter chaos at the floating restaurant. Tables and chairs were overturned, and unconscious diners and Creek's men lay scattered all over the floor. The chefs were trying to wake them up with obvious impatience. In the shadows of the corner, Creek huddled up. His once proud yellow armor was now cracked, just like his shattered ambition. Ajin stood silently by his side, wiping the bloodstains from his hands. Zoro! You're awake! Luffy's loud voice drowned out all the noise. He sprang to Zoro's side, his smile under his straw hat dazzlingly bright, as if yesterday's thrilling duel had never happened. Zoro frowned and sat up despite the pain. It's so noisy. What's going on? Where are Dilt and Hawkeye? Dilt and Uncle Hawkeye. Luffy sat down cross-legged and casually scooped a piece of meat from the plate of the unconscious diner next to him and stuffed it into his mouth. This made his words ambiguous. They left after drinking last night. Whoosh, they were gone in a flash. Uncle Hawkeye also disappeared in his little boat in a flash. He swallowed the meat forcefully, his eyes shining with an astonishing light. He gestured wildly with his hands and feet. Zoro! Let me tell you. We've encountered a super fun event. It's called the Holy Grail War. It was orchestrated by that guy Dilt. Able to summon legendary super powerful figures from history to fight alongside. Uncle Hawkeye wants to join. I want to join too. He proudly waved the back of his right hand, and 3 strange, bright red emblems appeared and disappeared in the sunlight. Look! This is the mark of participation in the Great War. Cool, right? Jeanne Dark was amazing. And also, Luffy's excited narration was like a machine gun. He dumped out everything from last night's introduction of Dilt, the existence of Jeanne Dark, the summoning of heroic spirits, and the rules of the 14-group free-for-all. His words were filled with anticipation for his upcoming battles against countless legendary powerhouses. It was as if it wasn't a brutal war, but an unprecedented grand adventure feast. Hawkeye will also be joining the fight. Zoro only noticed this one sentence. Hey! Brother Luffy! 2 excited voices interrupted. Johnny and Joseph had woken up some time earlier. Despite their dark circles under their eyes, they excitedly crowded in front of Luffy, their eyes filled with fervent worship. Wow, that's amazing! I never knew you were so talented. We all saw it last night. You were sitting at the same table drinking with that legendary arbitrator, Dilt, and the world's greatest swordsman, Hawkeye. You must be a hidden super boss. They were stunned by the conqueror's haki early last night and only vaguely saw the scene of the three of them sitting at the same table at the end. The mysterious tattoo on Luffy's hand and his spirited narration at this moment completely confirmed their imagination. Hey! Luffy tilted his head, looking completely clueless. I'm just eating. Johnny and Joseph, however, didn't care and excitedly hugged each other. That's incredible. Following Luffy was definitely the right decision. The Holy Grail War. That sounds amazing. We need to spread the word about our big brother. Let the whole world know about his legendary status and this earth-shattering battle. The two were already immersed in the fervor of witnessing and spreading history and following the hidden bigwigs. Idiot! Sanji's voice came through, tinged with disdain. He came over carrying 2 plates of fragrant seafood risotto. Upon seeing food approaching, Luffy's eyes immediately lit up, and he stopped talking. He kicked aside the inconvenient Johnny Joseph and placed the food next to Zoro. Here's your green algae head. Eat it while it's hot. Zoro's face contorted in a rage. Hey, curly eyebrows. Who are you calling a moss head? Unfortunately, he collapsed again as soon as he finished speaking because his wound reopened. Sanji lit a cigarette and looked at Luffy. Luffy. Sanji exhaled a smoke ring. Luffy, who was wolfing down his food, squeezed out a moment to respond. Before that guy Dilt left. His voice was lower, carrying a subtle complexity. He specifically said something to me. Luffy, his mouth full of rice, asked, Hey? What did he say? Sanji gazed at the distant sea, his blonde hair gleaming in the sunlight. He said, Kid, your cooking is pretty interesting. You can check out All Blue sometime. All Blue. The legendary sea where fish from all over the world gather. Sanji's fingers, which were holding a cigarette, trembled almost imperceptibly. That man, actually knew. The flame of dreams buried deep in Sanji's eyes has been ignited. With the support of Zeph and a group of chefs, he decided to set sail. Just then, Usopp's piercing scream rang out from outside the ship. Our Going Merry is gone. Everyone was startled and rushed to the edge of the deck. The sea where the Going Merry was once anchored was now completely empty. Nami. She took advantage of us being unconscious and sailed away with the boat. Sanji immediately retorted, how could it be Nami? Luffy pulled his straw hat down to cover his eyes, and a big, untroubled smile spread across his face. He showed no sign of frustration at having his ship stolen, instead, he was full of hope for the future. He instinctively clenched his fist, feeling the hard object against his palm. It was an inconspicuous little wooden wedge, bearing the scent of time. It was the piece that Dieter had pried off Roger's execution platform. Here you go, as a keepsake. Zoro silently picked up the 3 swords leaning against the wall and retied them around his waist and arms. Having witnessed the true pinnacle of the world, the wound on his chest was no longer a chasm of despair, but proof of his path to the summit. Let's go. His deep voice carried an undeniable firmness. You two go and find out about Nami. Johnny and Joseph immediately jumped up. Yes. Brother Luffy. Brother Zoro. We're going right now. And while we're at it, spread the news that Luffy is participating in the Holy Grail War throughout the East Blue. Luffy raised his hands. Let's go find Nami first. And then, let's go see more super strong guys. Krieg's cloudy eyes reflected Luffy's silhouette. The sea breeze carries the scent of freedom, yet it cannot dispel the deathly stillness in his heart. Ajin pleaded bitterly, Chief, let's go. Krieg remained silent, letting himself be helped as he staggered toward the wreckage. Ajin. Akin suddenly turned around and saw Sanji throw a bulging package at him. Mr. Sanji, this is... Sanji exhaled a smoke ring, don't go hungry on the way. With tears welling up in his eyes, Ajin knelt on the small boat and drifted further and further away with the ocean current. This kid can't even take care of himself, yet he's thinking about taking care of others. Don't catch a cold after you go out to sea. Sanji stopped in his tracks. The sea breeze ruffled his blonde hair. He suddenly turned around, bent his knees, and knelt heavily on the deck in front of the man who had given him a second life. My forehead pressed against the cold floor. Old man, all these years. I'm so grateful for your care. I will definitely find all blue and fulfill our shared dream. Luffy watched this scene, facing the strong sea breeze that rushed towards him. He clutched the straw hat tightly to his chest, the sunlight shining on him, making the 3 bright red command seals stand out even more. He grinned, revealing his signature bright smile. Chapter 11. Orange Town, a tavern. The oil lamp was dim, and the shadows swayed. The sour smell of cheap rum mixed with the smell of sweat. Johnny gulped down a large mouthful of wine, the spilling portion soaking his filthy collar. Hey! You all better prick up your ears. Joseph stepped onto the broken wooden table, sending splinters of wood flying. His voice instantly drowned out all the noise in the tavern, attracting curious eyes. You bumpkins! Do you know where I just came from? Joseph pounded his chest and waved his bandaged arm excitedly. Baratai, the floating restaurant. I witnessed history with my own eyes yesterday. He was spitting as he spoke, his eyes wide open. In the corner, a fat man who looked like a businessman sneered. Baratai? That famous floating restaurant in the East China Sea? What history can it witness? A cooking competition. Fart. Johnny slammed the empty wooden glass on the table with a bang, startling several drunkards nearby. He stood up abruptly, deliberately lowering his voice to match Joseph's. Listen carefully. Arbitrator Dilt. World's greatest swordsman Hawkeye my hawk. And. He deliberately dragged out the sound, then suddenly pointed his finger at himself. Our Luffy and I. These 3 big shots. Sitting on equal footing. Drinking and discussing business at the same table. Do you know what earth-shattering event we're talking about? The Holy Grail War. A man with a scar on his face, who looked like an old pirate, frowned. The Holy Grail War. He took a swig of his drink. I've heard of the Holy Grail that Dilt mentioned, but what's this Holy Grail War? That's right, you haven't heard of it. Joseph spat as he spoke, his voice rising even higher. Let me tell you. The 14 contestants have summoned legendary heroes from history to act as their henchmen. 14 groups of people. Fighting each other. The last group standing will win the legendary, all-powerful wish-granting machine. The Holy Grail. Laughter and incredulous chatter erupted instantly, like boiling water bursting forth. Ha ha ha. Bragging doesn't cost anything. Summon heroic spirits? Joseph, have you been knocked senseless by a sea king? Luffy? Never even heard of him. He's on par with Dilt and my hawk? Ha ha ha, that's hilarious. Johnny's face turned bright red, and he abruptly rolled up the sleeve of his right arm. Although there was nothing below, he pointed at it with great seriousness. Bullshit? I saw those 3 blood-red marks on Luffy's hand with my own eyes. That's called a command spell. Proof of the Holy Grail's choice. Even someone like Hawkeye has to bow down in the Holy Grail War. You guys don't know anything. He looked around with a sense of superiority. Just wait and see. The East China Sea is just the beginning of this storm. In this ultimate war that will sweep across the entire sea, our Luffy is destined to be the protagonist who stirs up the storm. Amid the commotion, the fat businessman pulled out paper and pen from his pocket. By the light of the oil lamp, he quickly jotted down keywords such as Holy Grail and heroic spirit, his eyes darting around nervously. If this information were sold to Morgan Stanley, they could probably make a fortune. The one-eyed bounty hunter stroked his chin and muttered to his companion, an all-powerful wish-granting machine, if it were real, tisk. Joseph Johnny looked around at the crowd discussing with satisfaction. Now you have a chance to serve Luffy. We're looking for a woman with orange hair. Does anyone have any leads? The old pirate spat out a mouthful of wine. Pfft! Damn it! An orange-haired girl? She stole my shirt before. I heard she's from Kokoyasi village. The bounty hunter's one eye lit up. Kokoyasi village? Aaron's territory. The one-eyed bounty hunter leaned closer to Johnny. Brother, I know Kokoyasi village well. We want to serve Lord Luffy. Johnny and Joseph looked at each other and grinned. The intelligence came to us on its own. They then recounted the Holy Grail War with even greater fervor, as if it were their own glory. In the shadows, countless people from both the legitimate and criminal worlds learned of this information. They slipped out of the tavern silently and disappeared into the bustling alleyways. The news, like a boulder thrown into a stagnant pool, created ripples that were unstoppable. A short time later, the new world appeared. The Moby Dick was docked at a pier, where 4 days of feasting had exhausted their food supply, and they needed to go ashore to resupply. Sunlight streamed onto the sails, but the atmosphere on the deck was even more intense than the sunlight itself. Have you heard? Captain Ace summoned Karna, the son of the sun. My god! Just one shot. Captain Vista's meticulously crafted flower field was instantly reduced to ashes. More than that. Captain Jaws wasn't convinced and went to fight him, and what happened? His supposedly hardest diamond body was rattled by that golden spear. The entire deck was shaking. At the dock, pirates carrying supplies constantly boasted to the merchants. The Holy Grail War that Lord Dilt spoke of. It's true. Captain Ace has already represented our Whitebeard pirates in the war. What an honor that is! The pirates, in groups of 3 or 5, were spitting as they spoke. There is only one core topic: the Holy Grail War and the awe-inspiring power of the heroic spirits. The little sun, which had been hiding in its spirit form, revealed itself with a speechless expression. Ace grinned, "You're definitely going to be famous in a couple of days." "Master, I already said the Holy Grail War is, never mind. It's nothing." Marco leaned lazily against the mainmast, his signature deadpan eyes sweeping over the excited crowd. Finally, the voice landed on the mountain like Whitebeard, carrying a hint of helplessness. "Tisk, Dad, the news travels too fast. It's only been a few days. Shouldn't we do something about it?" The white-bearded man tilted his head back, his Adam's apple bobbing, and downed a large barrel of strong liquor. The liquor dripped down his beard, glittering in the sunlight. Karalalala. He put down the barrel of wine and let out his signature hearty laugh. "Control? How? By silencing all the suns." His eyes gleamed with an all-knowing glint. "That bastard Dilt has maintained his table-flipping skills for decades, he's still top-notch. Since he dared to throw out the Holy Grail, he definitely didn't expect to be able to keep it a secret." The white-bearded man grinned. "The once stagnant sea is indeed about to become interesting." Marco nodded, "Yes, our intelligence network has received information that the Holy Grail War has spread throughout the East Blue. In addition to what we already know, there is some new information. There will be a total of 14 teams in the Holy Grail War, and the other 2 participants are said to be Hawkeye and a newcomer named Luffy." Ace was overjoyed. "Hey, Luffy! He's joining the battle too? Ha ha ha, are we going to have a showdown in this war?" Diamond Jaws stood to the side with his arms crossed, his body reflecting a dazzling light in the sunlight. Ace's brother and Hawkeye are in 14 groups. Who are the other contestants? Those Navy lackeys? Kaido, Linlin? Or those rats hiding in the shadows of the world government? Who cares who he is? The white-bearded man swung his large hand violently, the sound wave sweeping across the entire deck like a tsunami, carrying an undeniable domineering aura. "Anyone who dares to covet the Holy Grail, anyone who dares to stand in the way of my sons, I'll beat them all to a pulp." Kara-ra-ra-ra. His loud laughter was full of fearlessness and pride. Go. Tell everyone sailing in the New World, friend or foe, anyone who takes up this war against Dilt. They want the Holy Grail. He clenched his enormous hand in mid-air, as if grasping the entire ocean, and declared, "First, let's see if the Murakumokiri in my hand agrees. Awoo! Long live Daddy! Beat them up!" Chapter 12. Headquarters of World Economic News Agency. The birdman's pure white feathers danced wildly in the raging air currents. Big news! Big news! President Morgan's excited roar almost lifted the dome. His enormous wings flapped wildly as he stared at reports from encrypted channels in the East China Sea and the New World. The illegible handwriting burned his nerves. Luffy and Hawkeye join the battle. Command seals. Whitebeard declares war. A massive brawl of 14 heroic spirits. The all-powerful wish-granting machine. There are also a few blurry but stunning photos. Among them are blurry blonde figures, eagle-eyed swordsmen, men in golden armor and wielding golden spears, and holy blonde women. Roll it up. Roll up every single page in the next issue. Morgans roared at the trembling editor-in-chief. Immediately. Reprint the global special edition. Front page. Largest font size. With a flap of his wings, a gust of wind swept across the table, scattering the planned headline article everywhere. Title. Morgans roared at the air. Let's write legend tears apart reality. Arbitration by Dilt ignites the final war. The Holy Grail descends, 14 heroic spirits vie for supremacy. The ultimate wave of the great pirate era sweeps across the seas. Illustrated. A sketch of a white-bearded man raising a glass. A&D. He grabbed a blurry photo of Luffy. Add a sidebar, East Blue Rising Star. Straw Hat Luffy holds the Holy Grail mark. Quick! Keep the layout going all night. Newsbird must cover the Grand Line before sunrise tomorrow. His voice was distorted with excitement. In the corner, a newly hired reporter was pale and his hands were trembling uncontrollably. He mustered all his courage, his voice barely audible. President, including when the Holy Grail was first announced, this overwhelming media coverage, won't it anger that arbitrator? What if he blames us? I simply can't imagine the consequences of angering such a being. The noisy newsroom fell silent instantly, and all eyes were on Morgans. Morgans suddenly turned around, his sharp, bird-like eyes fixed on the young reporter. But he showed no anger, instead, he gave a meaningful smile. Angered Dilt? Ha 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 ha. He burst into a fit of wild laughter and strode to the huge floor-to-ceiling window. He looked down at the brightly lit harbor below. His voice suddenly lowered, carrying a seasoned shrewdness that came from years of experience in the underworld. Kid, who do you think Dilt is? Some brute. He turned around, his eyes gleaming. His legend extends far beyond the battlefield. His intelligence network, his claws, extend much deeper and farther than you imagine, spreading across the world, even. He paused deliberately, his words carrying a deeper meaning. He's been involved with the board of directors of this news agency. The young reporter gasped. He threw out the bait of the Holy Grail War, and he had no intention of hiding it. Morgan's voice carried an all-knowing, playful quality. That's exactly what he wants. He wants the whole world to know. What we want is for all the ambitious, all the powerful, and all the rats hiding in the gutter to leap out. Let this sea burn completely. He spread his enormous wings. And I, Morgans, am his best megaphone. Our friendship was forged through countless big business deals. He understands me, and I understand him. This news agency is its wings. Ha 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 ha. Laughter once again filled the hall. What are you all standing there for? Get moving. Let the world know about this Holy Grail War, which is comparable to the battle for One Piece. The news agency was operating like a machine in a state of emergency. The next day, Early in the morning, newsbirds took off from the news agency headquarters, their numbers blotting out the sun. They carried the special edition, still smelling of ink, to every corner of the world. Dress Rosa, the King's Heights. Doflamingo sat on the sofa with his legs crossed. A newly delivered special edition floated in front of him, turning its pages automatically. The exaggerated headline and accompanying picture were reflected in his pink sunglasses. Phew 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 phew. A low, strange laugh echoed through the empty hall, growing louder and louder. The Holy Grail War? A wish-granting machine? Summoning heroic spirits? Phew phew phew. Dilt, you old madman, are you finally tired of playing around in this world and ready to flip the table? Invisible threads were wrapped around his fingertips as he turned the page of the newspaper again. Group 14. Interesting. Very interesting. Information related to this in the underworld, its price will skyrocket, right? Phew phew phew. This is a business opportunity. Besides, the Holy Grail. Phew phew phew. He gave the order to the air. Treble. Get all the family threads moving. Search for information about the Holy Grail War. How can the Joker be absent from this grand event? Alabasta, Rainland, deep within the Rain Banquet Casino. Crocodile had a large cigar in his mouth and a newspaper spread out in front of him. Under the dim light, he squinted, carefully reading each word. Especially the description of the omnipotent wish-granting machine. A hoarse voice, tinged with heat, replied, "Humph, the Holy Grail that grants all wishes." His golden hook tapped the table unconsciously, making a sound. He looked toward the capital, Albina. The Baroque works plan is at a crucial stage, and seizing this desert kingdom is the first step. But now, a more tempting, more direct shortcut seems to have emerged. Perhaps, the value of Alabasta needs to be reassessed. Gentlemen and ladies, we should start looking for news about the Holy Grail. A new world, on a burning island. Mama mama. Charlotte Linland's enormous body sat on Zeus. She looked at the newspaper Prometheus handed her and burst into deafening laughter. The Holy Grail? It can grant all wishes? Including making the world's most delicious wedding cake. Mama mama. So, sister, all nations, perfect desserts, all wishes are no problem. Interesting, Dilt, you're still as interesting as you were when you were young. A greedy glint shone in her eyes. Wano country, Onigashima. Amidst thunderous snoring. The drunken Kaido barely opened one eye and glanced at the newspaper that King handed him. He muttered, fulfilling wishes? How boring. It would be more interesting if he could destroy this boring world. He rolled over, the huge gourd of wine rolled off, and snoring resumed. Jin silently put away the newspaper, his eyes behind the mask sharp as knives. Heroic spirits? Worth paying attention to. A secret base of the Revolutionary Army. Dragon looked at the headline Holy Grail War on the newspaper, and the tiny illustration next to Luffy's name. The shadow under his hat brim seemed even deeper. A wish-granting machine? Could it end the celestial dragon's rule? To be honest, he believed more in the power of the people than in such vague and ethereal things. However, the chaos brought about by this war might be an opportunity. He ordered in a deep voice, Sabo, pay close attention to the developments in the Holy Grail War, especially the world government's reaction. Naval Headquarters, Marshal's Office. Warring States Period's desk was completely overwhelmed by newspapers and urgent telegrams from all over the country. At this time, Garp was still on vacation in the East Blue, and Kizaru's report was on the way. Sengoku looked at Morgan's highly provocative headline and Dieter's blurry figure on the front page. The storm known as the Holy Grail War has begun to sweep across the world. That guy Dilt, this is an open conspiracy, an unsolvable open conspiracy. What kind of people can participate in the war? Just pirates, or rather, everyone. Sengoku looked in the direction from which the deep voice came. Sakazuki. Steam rose around this tall, tough man. What if the Navy could also participate in the war? A strange, menacing glint appeared in Akainu's eyes. Perhaps, seizing the Holy Grail is also a good option. Chapter 13. The New World, an Unnamed Island. Dieter held in his hand a special edition of the World Economic News, which had just been delivered by Newsbird. Legend tears reality apart. Arbitration by Dilt ignites the final battle. The Holy Grail descends, 14 heroic spirits vie for supremacy. The ultimate wave of the Great Pirate Era sweeps across the seas. The subtitle reads, East Blue Rising Star. Straw Hat Luffy holds the Holy Grail mark. Whitebeard publicly declares war. Hawkeye's participation confirmed. Ha 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 ha. Dilt's laughter echoed between the sea and the sky. Morgans. You noisy newsbird, you certainly didn't disappoint me. He lightly flicked the newspaper with his fingertips, his eyes full of admiration. Straw Hat Luffy is holding the Holy Grail mark? Tisk tisk, let's put that brat on the fire right now. He could almost see Morgans through the paper, his feathers flying with excitement. That's right. The clamor of this grand feast should resound to the heavens. Listen to all those ordinary, shadowy, self-important gods. The new game has begun. Joan of Arc, in her spirit form, appeared beside him, her silver armor gleaming in the sunlight. Looking at her master's trouble-seeking attitude and then at the highly inflammatory reports in the newspaper, a hint of helplessness appeared on her pure face. Master. Joan of Arc's voice carried a hint of distress. The Holy Grail War should theoretically be conducted in secret. Participants should remain anonymous to avoid involving ordinary people and to prevent external interference until a winner is determined. But now, this seems to contradict my responsibility to oversee the operation of the rules of war. Just then, a mechanical voice, devoid of emotion and somewhat dull, suddenly rang in Dilt's mind. Ding! Achievement accomplished. Achievement name, the Holy Grail War is being conducted in secret. Oh no, another gas explosion. Achievement description, congratulations, host, for successfully spreading news of the Holy Grail War far and wide in a very short time, making it world-class headline news. Secret? What's that? Can you eat it? Achievement point +1, although this system doesn't know what achievement points are used for either. Dieter was taken aback at first. Then he burst into an even louder laugh, laughing so hard that tears almost streamed down his face. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. This is hilarious. It's been so long since I've had this much fun. He wiped away the tears of laughter from the corners of his eyes and looked at the bewildered Saintess. My servant, you're still too bound by common sense. Dieter spread his hands, that makes perfect sense expression on his face. In your world, magicians follow the rule of concealment and mystery, so they hide in their own little circles and play house. But what kind of world is this now? He pointed to the churning sea beneath his feet. This is the world of pirates. There's no mages association here, no rules and regulations. Power, fame, ambition, and desire, they're all laid bare. A look of smug satisfaction gleamed in Dilt's eyes. So, the Holy Grail War is here, why should it be kept secret? Let everyone know, let all the ambitious and driven individuals speak out. Let them fight and scramble for a wish-granting machine that's both ethereal and real. That's the kind of carnival I want. Jeanne could only sigh softly as she looked at her master's self-righteous demeanor. She silently made the sign of the cross on her chest. Lord, please forgive this willful and capricious angel, and please protect the innocent who have been caught up in it. Just as Dieter was laughing heartily. In the East China Sea, the village of Coco West is shrouded in an invisible dark cloud. Johnny and Joseph's hard-working publicity campaign had an explosive effect. Although most people remain skeptical, the allure of the omnipotent wish-granting machine is simply too great. This is enough to ignite countless greedy eyes and stir up countless risk-taking hearts. The name Straw Hat Luffy, along with the 3 so-called Holy Grail marks on the back of his hand, became the center of the storm. And the eye of the storm was none other than the unfortunate village of Coco West. Boss. Breaking news. Luffy and his crew are in Kokoyasi village. A merman minion burst into the lobby of Alan's paradise, shouting excitedly. Along was sitting in his extravagant chair, breathing heavily through his nose. He also held a crumpled newspaper in his hand, his eyes greedily fixed on the description of the Holy Grail. They've delivered themselves to our doorstep. Along grinned, revealing sharp, white teeth. What a coincidence, no, it's heaven helping me. He stood up abruptly, the merman's tall body casting a huge shadow. Men. Keep a close watch on the village, don't let a single rat escape. Especially Nami. She's our important asset. A fierce glint flashed in Along's eyes. Straw Hat Luffy? Humph, a brat I've never even heard of dares to possess the mark of the Holy Grail. He clenched his fist, and his knuckles cracked. Once I've dealt with him and obtained the information about the Holy Grail, all those Shishibukai and Marine Admirals will have to grovel at my feet, Lord Arlong. The entire world will be ours to conquer. Ha 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 ha. However, Arlong and his crew are not the only ones who covet Straw Hat Luffy and the secret of the Holy Grail on him. Almost simultaneously, several pirate ships, like sharks that have smelled blood, quietly approached the waters near Kokoyasi village. Of course, it's not just pirates. On a speedboat, several well-equipped bounty hunters were polishing their weapons. Is the news reliable? Is Straw Hat Luffy really in Kokoyasi village? It's true. The black market intelligence dealers are going crazy over it. The guy grinned maliciously. If we capture him, or get the information about the mark on his hand, and sell it to the world government or anyone else, we'll be rich. Be careful, that kid seems to have a powerful swordsman with him, who used to be a bounty hunter. What are you afraid of? We're the Hyena Brothers, we specialize in gnawing on tough nuts. In the East China Sea, even the most skilled newcomer can't withstand our sea stone equipment. On another small, dilapidated sailboat that was incredibly fast, several people dressed in various styles gathered. They are intelligence brokers active in the East China Sea. Target confirmed, Coco Village. Aaron's territory. Perfect timing. That stupid fishman Arlong must have his eye on it too. Let them fight first, we'll fish in troubled waters. We absolutely must capture Straw Hat Luffy alive. Got it. Hehehe, after we pull off this job, we'll be famous. Even worse, some merchant ships or fishing boats that heard of Along's bad reputation dared not approach Coco West Village. At this moment, they too are tempted by the Holy Grail and venture here at great risk, hoping to glimpse a sliver of opportunity. The peaceful village of Coco West instantly became the eye of the most dangerous storm in the East China Sea. Luffy and his crew were unaware of this. Led by the one-eyed bounty hunter brought back by Johnny Joseph, they found Nami ahead of time. Nami broke down in Arlong's shadow and cried in despair. Luffy placed his straw hat on her head, and the warmth of that moment reminded her of Belmir's embrace. Then, the scene of his mother being killed by Along and falling to the ground appeared before his eyes. She couldn't hold back her tears. Luffy, help me. Luffy looked up to the sky and shouted, of course. Zoro, Sanji, and Usopp stood side by side with him, all looking towards Arlong Park. At that very moment, countless people, including Along, were also eyeing their group. Chapter 14. Boom. The gates of Along Paradise were torn to shreds by this force. Accompanying the loud noise was a powerful roar. Ah, dragon! In the park, Arlong, who was preparing to gather his men to capture Luffy, was slightly taken aback. He then burst into a fit of manic laughter. Whoosh, ha ha ha! I was just about to look for you, but I didn't expect you to come right up to me. Luffy kept his head down, expressionless. He walked slowly, step by step, to Oolong's side. Oolong looked down at the human. If you give me the mark of the Holy Grail and let me join the battle, I might spare your life. Luffy's eyes were incredibly bright as he slowly raised his head to face Oolong's prominently raised nose. You want to know about the Holy Grail? I can tell you, but... Oolong became interested and lowered his head to listen to what this human had to say. Boom! The punch seemed to tear the screen apart, leaving only black and white lines surging with the force of the blow. Boundless rage was channeled into this punch, instantly sending Oolong flying. Before the fishmen could react, they saw dust billowing up from the distant wall, and Oolong lay sprawled inside. Big brother! At this moment, Luffy, still in a boxing stance, finished saying what he had just said. You bullied my friend, I'm going to beat you up first. As soon as he finished speaking, Zoro and Sanji made a grand entrance, followed by a timid Usopp. Amidst the smoke and dust, Oolong slowly sat up. He exhaled heavily through his jagged nostrils, and his eyes flashed with an unprecedented killing intent. Damn it, you humans! All of you, get him! Break Straw Hat Boy's limbs and bring him here! Instantly, the fishmen were all set ablaze. They roared and surrounded the Straw Hat crew.
वीडियोस बनाने हैं, फिल्मोरा है ना?